All right. Nonetheless, thank you for coming to our class this evening. As you can see, we've got two powerful men in our midst today. And as you see around, our classroom, our lecture hall has been revolutionized. You see, we've got cameras and a whole lot of fancy stuff around here. Okay, so that's pretty cool, isn't it? All right, so one of the gentlemen, or the gentleman behind the podium, is a very powerful captain of industry. And he always asks our alumni, our former students, I mean, he sat on the same chairs and the steps that is in front of you, and he was our BTech student. Now, what happens is that from time to time, we invite these powerful captains of industry to come into your lecture hall and to tell you what is happening in industry, to give you some heads up as to what you need to do and the kind of preparation that you need to actually undergo in order to be able to get your feet into industry. So it is for your own good. He has taken time off his hectic schedule to come and speak to you. He is so passionate about people development, especially so passionate about the development of the youth. So this is his personal project as well, and he hopes to impact knowledge, and he hopes to share with you his insights, and he hopes to tell you a few things that will keep you motivated. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, I'll leave him to do the introduction for himself. He's a powerful one. I don't want to preempt him. So I'll leave him to do the introduction for himself. And you listen very attentively. You take notes when you have to take the notes. And you ask questions. I mean, he's a very lovely guy and a very powerful communicator. So you ask questions when you have to ask the questions and make sure that you get clarity. Like I always tell you, make sure that you aren't living here the way you came. I mean, make sure that you are living here better than you came here. All right? All right, so Mr. Mokoena, how about you?
Thank you, sir. How's it, guys? How are you doing? Good, good. Just having a chat with Dr. Waduku about the class. I remember when I was here, this whole place was full. It was like all the way to that side. It was like really a full class all the way to the back there and almost to the back of that side. So we're just chatting about how the dynamics of varsity are changing with this whole free education and whatnot, and how it's impacting enrollment. So it's really quite scary to see there's so few of you guys. You know, but I'm glad you guys are here. Feels a bit cozy, so we're gonna get intimate. Right, so my name is not Eminem, it's not Slim Shady. My name is Thabang Mokoena, and the gentleman over there is Muzi. He works for a company called the Mousist. You can look them up, it's themousist.co.za. So he's here to help me capture this moment, because we like to capture these moments and then share them. So I'm from, I was born in Temba Hospital in a place called Ngodini, which is in Nelspruit in Mpumalanga. Anyone from that side here? No one from Mpumalanga. All right, so I'm from Nelspruit in Mpumalanga. We are famous for the Big Five and tourism in general. We've also had some exports in the form of Rebecca Malupi, the gospel artist. We've had a KO, who is also from Mpumalanga, if you didn't know, businessmen such as Robert Gumet and 2016 Miss South Africa is also from Mpumalanga. So yeah, it's not just animals and bushes and trees coming from that side. We also have a bit of talent coming from our province. So I have a fascination with human behavior. And I think in general, if you are in marketing, you should be fascinated by human behavior, because that's essentially what you want to spend your entire career trying to manipulate to your benefit. So if you're not interested in human behavior and you're in marketing, it's a bit questionable how you ended up here, because it's borderline along the same lines as psychology. So everything that we do in marketing has to do with behavior. I mean, your phone, the way it's designed, some of these phones and some of these apps, they actually invite psychologists in to the development sessions to help understand how a human, when they touch the phone, where do they want to look first? How do you nudge them to behave a certain way and do certain things? So generally, you should have an interest in human behavior and ultimately on how to manipulate it, because that's what you try to do with your adverts. You know, you put an advert at a certain area where you know there's high traffic, and you know that during these peak hours, such as our highways here, during peak hours, there's no movement at all. That is why you have all those billboards there that tell a story, you know, because they know you're stuck in traffic, you have nothing better to do. You will be looking at these billboards, and they'll capture your attention, and you'll start trying to understand what the story is about. And you might even act on it. You might even take out your phone and Google whatever they're advertising at that moment. So you should get interested in human behavior. Consider getting some psychology books as a marketer and reading some psychology books, because that's going to help you in your career as well in trying to understand how to go about manipulating that behavior to buy your product, to do whatever. Sometimes we might want to influence it for positive reasons. Maybe you want to get your little niece or your little brother to read more, you know? So if you understand human behavior, you can learn how to trick him or her into doing what you want them to do. All right, so a bit about myself. I'm a jack of all trades, in a sense. I'm some of the few people that got lucky that when I finished my diploma, I landed straight into marketing management, because it's not always the case. Sometimes you end up in retail or any other such jobs. So I was fortunate enough to land directly in marketing management, particularly product marketing at Nissan South Africa through their graduate program. Now, a lot of people would have noticed, and I noticed this, I picked this up when I started my diploma at TET in 2006. A lot of people get into marketing thinking it's advertising. And then they wake up in the middle of it like, oh snap, this is not advertising, this is not what I wanted to do, you know. And then some drop out, some stick it out and go through it. The cool thing about management is that it's quite broad. It's really an overview, and that is why you go through research, you go through marketing management, you go through communications, and you go through, what do you call it, digital marketing and so on. That is why you go through all those phases, because it's quite broad. So by being in product marketing, I got exposed to a lot of things. I got exposed to marketing research. Before we put out a product, we have to do group tests and so on. So I got exposed to all of that at a very early stage of my career, because I got to sit in the session. So all the stuff that I was learning about in class, I got to be behind the glass and watch people trying to interact with one of our cars at Nissan, you know, and see how they behave around the car, and take those insights back into the office and see how we can tweak the car and change the car for the better, or change our advert for the better, because before an advert airs, we also test it. So we take a certain demographic that we're trying to target with the advert, and then we test that advert. So I got exposed to all of that. I got exposed to brand marketing and marketing communications from working with the brand team, as well as internal comms as well, because whatever we do for the outside world, we try to do internally in the company so that we can get people to be our ambassadors of our product, because your employees are your best billboard. If your employee is not talking positively about you, just as you guys are the best billboard for UJ, for instance, if you guys don't go out there and speak positively about UJ, no one is going to want to come to the school. You know, so your employees are your best billboard. So through that, I got into marketing communications, I got into brand marketing and so on, distribution as well, because you have to plan the pipeline, right? So you're out there, you're advertising, you're trying to get customers to come into your dealership to buy your car, but you got to make sure the car gets here, because the car comes from different places. It comes from the UK, it comes from Spain, it comes from Japan, and all those other places. So you got to get the car all the way from those places to the harbor in Durban, and all the way to the dealership in Johannesburg, in KZN, in Mpumalanga, and wherever else you wanted to get to. So I got exposed to that as well, and understanding how distribution works and how we actually get the car into the country, right? Financial management, you know, so if you hate accounting, you gotta get good at it, because you're gonna be doing that. You're gonna be given budgets. You're gonna be given budgets to, if you're given a product, for instance, to say, okay, you're now the product manager of the Nissan Juke. It's your car. It's almost your little mini business that you're running there. You got to manage that whole product. You got to manage the advertising. You got to manage the minor change that's to come in 4 years' time. You got to manage how much money you want to spend and where you want to spend it. You know, if you look at Juke, it's a hip product. You're trying to target young people. Where do young people spend most of the time? Are they listening to radio? Are they watching TV? You got to make those decisions. Say, no, I'm going to put my money on digital because I think these guys spend most of their time on Twitter, on Facebook, and so on. You know, so you got to make those decisions. Which one is going to give you the best return on investment? So you become somewhat of a financial manager. Because at the end of the day, you get checked. We have what we call Nissan mindsets. And one of the mindsets is frugal. You got to be frugal. You got to do the best that you can with the least resources. And we're talking time, we're talking money, we're talking people, everything. You know what I mean? So do you need to have a meeting with 20 people? Or are 2 people enough to make the decision? Because if you have 20 people, you know, when you calculate it in hours, for instance, so if you have, let's say, 3 GMs, and we assume that 1 GM gets paid 2,000 Rand an hour, and you have a meeting for an hour, how much is that? That's 6,000 Rand in that room, idling, when they can be doing other things. So you gotta start thinking about those things when you call meetings and book people's time, and how you spend that time as well. So you become somewhat of a financial manager. You become an amateur digital specialist. I got exposed to that as well earlier on. I was in charge of managing the reports from Google Analytics for our company to see where our website traffic comes from and where does it go and how long do they stay and all that stuff. So I had to take all that raw data, skim through it and get some insights and say, okay, a lot of our people, they fall off when they get to this point. How do we stop them from falling off and drive them back into the website and get them to action or buy something or log a dealer test drive or whatever it might be, right? CRM as well, you get exposed to that. We run campaigns on CRM on all customers. If we see that your Navara is now 10 years old or whatever it might be, and we have the new Navara coming up, and we know you're a loyal Nissan customer, we start sending you emails. So we manage that well, the customer life cycle, you know, that relationship that we have with the customer, we manage that as well. So as a product manager, you'll get exposed to that. Copywriting. This is going to form a biggest part of your career, you know. So you gotta get good at writing as well, which generally comes from reading more books, reading more advertorials and so on. So you gotta get good at writing because the advertorials that you guys see on the newspapers about cars, about celebrities, about whatever, that is written by the communications teams or by the product managers in the case of products. So you gotta sit down, you write it, and you send that to all your journalists. Journalists take it, they adopt it, they make it their own, and then they publish it. So you got to get good at copywriting as well. That's going to be a big part of your career. You're going to have to write bulletins to dealers, or if you're working for clicks or whatever, you're going to write bulletins to all your branches. You know, like look at the case of listeriosis that just happened now. How many bulletins were written? So the marketing department's got to write those bulletins. So they got to get the insight from legal. Legal says no, react this way. The scientists or the doctors say react this way, and then the marketing team has to take all of that together, structure it properly in a way that it makes sense, and then send it out to the different branches and say, okay, Rainbow Nation, this is how we react to when someone comes and asks you that question. You know, so that's very important to get your writing good. Sales operations as well, got exposed to that as well. So you're gonna at some point have to get into sales in your career because it's important, especially if you want to grow within your career. To get to GM level or senior management level, you gotta be a rounded individual. You shouldn't only just know marketing. And I know we all don't like sales, but you gotta get in there at some point. You gotta be able to persuade people. There's a lot of skills that you can learn from selling, you know, because it's not an easy thing. I mean, imagine now you're selling on commission, you know, if it's that bad. If you're selling on commission, it's really tough because, you know, if you don't make the sale today, you're not eating tomorrow, you know? So, but it teaches you the art of persuasion. And that's a key thing that you're gonna need throughout your career to sell whatever idea. If you wanna bring a new product into the market, you have to persuade investors. I mean, you look at the structure of Apple or Google or whoever, they have investors, you know? And if you're not convincing the investors that this thing is gonna make money, they're not gonna put money behind it now, are they? You're not gonna be able to produce it. You know, you look at how things have changed now. We have Kickstart. You know, people put their own money behind products that they believe are gonna work or support in a certain initiative that they believe in or whatever it might be, right? So you have those type of things happening. The person that creates the product has to go in, persuade the market that this is what you need in your life, you know, or persuade the executive that we need to do this thing, so put money behind it so we can get it to the market. So sales is the best place to learn the art of persuasion. Ultimately, you become a fortune teller, right? And that's the most important thing ever. You're gonna have to be a fortune teller, and you're gonna have to be good at trying to predict the future, because that's what you do. You always looking for trends. You know, you always, it's kind of like if you look at DJ Theora or whoever, they're always looking for the next hit for December, right? You're like, what is going to be the next thing that's going to pop? Is it going to be auto-tune, or is it going to be this type of drum? Is it going to be this type of guitar, whatever? That's what you guys are going to become. You're going to become fortune tellers. You need to predict how many units, for instance, you're going to sell of a particular car. You need to be able to say, if this car has 19-inch wheels, a sunroof, and a navigation system, I'm definitely going to sell 100 of them. But if it doesn't have the 19-inch wheels, I'm going to lose 10 units and only sell 90 of them. Right? You need to do those exercises, and you do those exercises by having data about the market, about your target customer, about the volume that's out there in the market for hatchbacks and so on, and you do those studies, and you determine how much you're going to sell, and those numbers you'll be held to. They'll be held against you, because investments have to be made based on those numbers. So if you say we want to sell 100 cars, that means someone has to go buy 100 steering wheels, right? 100 sets of wheels, 100 sets of wheel caps, 100 sets of mirrors, and so on and so forth. So an investment is being made on the numbers that you give to the engineering team. So it's very important that you become a really good fortune teller. So yeah, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, but better than a master of one. Righty. Why am I here today? I'm here today to have a conversation with you guys. So I don't want to lecture. I'm not a lecture. I'd like us to have a chit chat. So if you want to pop in something, you want to ask a question, feel free. Just raise your hand and ask ahead. The conversation is about choices. It's about communications. It's about career planning. And it's about giving back. Let's jump right into it. Choices. What are choices? Anyone? Opportunities? Go for it. You look like you got something to say. Options? Anyone else? Spot on. So you're all correct. It's options, it's opportunities, it's different ways. So there's a bunch of opportunities. You could go that way, you could go that way, right? You have a number of options in life that you can pick. Simply put, it's an act of choosing between two or more possibilities. And as we know, the world is full of endless possibilities, right? So I want to change the way that we see choices. I want to change the way that you guys see choices. Because generally, when we grow up, we have the mindset, and I have nieces, I have about 4 nieces and 2 nephews. I see this behavior, and it's a behavior that I had as well growing up. Generally, the way that we see things, we believe in this myth of a crossroad, right? We believe that at some point in your life or in your career or in your studies, you're going to reach this crossroad where you're going to stand and you're going to have to make a decision whether you are successful in life or you fail. Maybe that's not a good way of putting it. As you said, it's opportunities, it's options. So it might not necessarily be success and failure. It might be success and success. You know, take this part, maybe you become an engineer or whatever it might be. You take this part, maybe you become a doctor. You know, it's both successful, right? Or maybe it's both failure, and you have to choose a lesser evil, right? We have that mindset that you're going to come to this crossroad where you're going to suddenly have to make that decision. I'm here to tell you today that no such crossroad exists. You're not going to come to some point where you make a decision and suddenly you become the executive of a big corporation. It's not happening like that, right? The way that it works, it's that it's a series. It's a bunch of mini crossroads. It's a series of choices that you're going to have to make that eventually get you to that executive level position. So every day you make a choice. It was cold today. It was really cold, right? What would you guys rather be doing right now? Right? But you made a decision to come here, right? You sat down, you weighed your options. You're like, it's flipping cold. Should I get out of this bed? You know, but you made a decision. Why? Because there's something driving you. Your future's pulling you, right? And the more you make those type of choices, the closer you get to that desired future, the closer you get to your success. The more you make the other choices, like sleeping, as she said when she came in here and she was like, where are the people? I was like, I don't know, maybe they decided to bunk because the guest lecturers come. And she was like, they're going to fail, you know? And she makes a good point. So essentially, that's how it works. The more bad choices you make, the closer you get, or rather not necessarily bad choice, that's a bad word. The more certain type of choices you make, they bring you closer to a certain life or closer to the opposite. So that's how it works. So stop thinking and waiting for crossroads that you're going to come across. Every decision you make on a daily basis brings you closer to whatever your goal and your ambition is in life. So remember that. It's a series of choices. It's not going to be one single choice that changes your life. Cool. So today you are here. You're undergrads. Tomorrow, for example, you want to be a director of marketing, right? I just want to put this choice thing into a practical view. You can make a decision today, say, screw this, wasting my time. It's cold. I want to go to sleep. I'm dropping out. Done. That's it, right? Bit of a gray area. We don't know what's going to happen with you if you drop out. You know, it's not to say that your life will end. Who knows? We might all end up working for you because life is funny like that, right? Alternatively, you came to class. You said, let me go through. Let me see what this lecture is about. Let me get the scope for the upcoming test. And you graduate eventually. You make another choice. After graduation, it's a tough economy right now, right? Number of options. You can sit and wait for the ideal job, or you can be smart and go volunteer, right? Those are decisions, you know? Because you think about it like, okay, if I get into an interview, I have to explain this gap. What was I doing for 2 years just sitting at home and doing nothing? You have to explain that, and trust me, nobody wants to hire someone that sits idle, you know? So you go volunteer. You want to fill gaps in your CV. You want to make sure you have no gaps in your CV. You want to fill all those gaps, right? You go volunteer your time. And who knows, maybe while you're volunteering, some executive or some oak from Coca-Cola or whatever happens to have a passion for giving back as well and is there and starts having a conversation with you, and boom, you get an internship. Some of the possibilities that could happen, right? Read up. Spend a lot of time reading. Like I said, read psychology books. That's understanding the psyche of how the consumer's mind works. You know, there's a very brilliant book called Biology, B-U-Y-ology, you know? It's about this guy that went and did a study on neuroscience to understand what happens to a customer's mind, you know, consumer's mind when they see certain ads or see certain things. You know, it's a brilliant book. Give it a read. You know, so you read up, you empower yourself, you ready yourself for whatever might come in the future. You attend conferences. You know, there's a bunch of conferences happening all over the place. There's TED Talks that are happening here in Johannesburg. You attend things like that to build your interest, right? You will never know who you're going to meet in those places because guess who goes there? It's your executives. It's the people of industry that go to those places. So you go there. You never know who you're going to bump into. Eventually, you get your internship. You decide you want to go back to school. You study further. Maybe you get a global assignment or something. You decide to stay somewhere in America and never come back to South Africa. You know, we don't know. You know, maybe at some point in your career, you start making choices based on money. I just want to give you a warning. Be careful when you start making choices based on money, especially early in your career. It's very dangerous when you start making choices early in your career based on money. I started at Nissan in 2010. When I started, I was earning 3.5. I was staying in a place called Wonder Park. My rent was 1.2. You can imagine how tough life was. 3.5, rent of 1.2. I still had to buy groceries. I had flipping Nesfos to pay off, you know. So it was tough, and I had to get to work and all the stuff, and I had to zhuzh up my wardrobe because my wardrobe was inappropriate, just as a student's wardrobe is inappropriate, you know, which is another important thing. Start buying suits, you know. So I had to now, while your mom can still buy it for you, you know. So now I had to start spending on formal clothing and all those things, you know. But I stuck it out. I stayed. I was like, this pay is bad, you know, but I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to stay there because I want to learn, and it's a great learning opportunity. I was surrounded by great managers at the time. I said, I'm going to stick it out. Other people decided to jump ship, go to better jobs, because sometimes you make silly decisions. Imagine jumping ship from 3.5 to go earn 5,000 Rand or 6,000 Rand. It's double the money, but you find that the learning opportunity from where you left was way better. That side is not as good, you know? So be careful when you start making decisions for money. Grace up, your career keeps going, you decide to have kids as well. That's also something you need to be careful with, because once you have kids, it changes your dynamics and how you make decisions, because you're no longer making decisions just for you now. You can't up and just uproot your life and go work in Switzerland or wherever. You know, you have to think, I've got kids and all those things. So always think about these equations when you're making your decisions, you know? Maybe immediately go back to school right after 2 years of working. I mean, it took me a while to come back to do my BTech. I graduated in 2009. I only came back in 2016 to do my BTech. So it took me a bit of a while, and I'm having another gap period now, but I need to go back to school, which is when a professor called me in here, I was like, I need to chat to you about my studies as well. I need to get back to school, because sometimes you don't want to be gone for too long, because as I said, you need to be always ready, you need to be always prepared, so that when an opportunity does come, you don't want them to say, but you don't have that MBA, or you don't have that honors, or you don't have this. It's like, no, I got everything, here you go. I've got the experience, I've got the papers, give me the goddamn job. And then you get the job, you start working. So yeah, eventually after a couple of more decisions, more mini crossroads, you will make it to a director of marketing, or even to a different position, or even to your own company, or whatever it might be. The key thing to remember is that there's no wrong or right decision. So let's stop looking at decisions from a right or wrong perspective. We can't predict the future. We plan, and we hope and we have faith that it's going to happen because of the efforts that we put in. So don't look at it from a right or wrong perspective. There's only the decision that you can make based on available information. For instance, if you know that right now you've lost your source of funding to come to school and you have no other options but to go get a job because you have a little brother that you need to take care of, that's the best decision you can make at the time based on all the information that you have. And you'll have to make that decision. If there was a better decision, you would have made that decision. But there isn't. So there's no right or wrong. It's just the information that you have in front of you. This is the best decision that you can make. Cool. This is a Latin saying that I came across from the movie, what is the movie called? The Mechanic. I don't know if you guys have seen this movie with Jason Statham. There's pistols that he had them in a case, and that pistol he had inscribed this. It said, Amat Victoria Curam. This is Latin, and what it means is that victory loves preparation. And that is why I'm saying to you guys, it's always important to be prepared. That is why it's always important to read up. So you're in marketing, you're not a digital specialist, but read up about digital, understand what's happening in the industry, so that if you do get an opportunity in digital, and you go into the interview, and the interviewer and say, but you're not a digital specialist, you didn't study anything related to this. You say, but I do understand what's happening in the industry. And they will pick it up in the interview that this guy is smart enough or this girl is smart enough to actually take on this challenge. So always read up, just get in as much knowledge as you can, and continue to get your education so that when the opportunity comes, you are prepared. And trust me, you'll be victorious. Right. Before I move on, any questions on choices? Anything you want to share on choices? All right, cool. Communication. What is communication? Interaction. That's something here. Guys, you started communication, and I think you're doing communication this year as well, no? It was last year. So it's still fresh. So what is communication? All right, interaction, dialogue between two or more people exchanging ideas, and she said understanding. Cool. Spot on. That's essentially what it is, exchanging information through speaking, writing, or using some other medium of sorts, right? How many of you guys are working, by the way? Okay, decent class. What are you guys doing? Under? Brand. Cool. Marketing. Digital. Brand builder. Someone else at the back? Sorry? Senior controller. Ah, sweet. Okay? Product manager. For which company? It's technical. Ah, sweet. So you guys are selling PlayStations. Sweet. Righty. So communications. Essentially, at the core of it, there's just two types. There's verbal communications using sounds and words, what I'm actually doing right now. There's non-verbal communications, that's without words. This is the most important portion of communication for you guys when you start your career. So that's speaking without words. What are we talking about here, right? Are we talking about Charlie Chaplin miming? Are we talking about that oak at Madiba's funeral? What's his name? Tamsanga. What are we talking about here, right? So when we talk about communicating without words, we're talking about your dress code. We're talking about your posture, We're talking about your actions, essentially. Look, when you go like this, I know you guys are shivering, you are cold, Through reading your facial expressions, I can pick up that, okay, I'm losing some of you guys are no longer interested. Some of you are still sitting up, you are very interested. Some of you are giggling, you're finding this very entertaining and so on. When your eyes glow when I say something, it's like, I picked their interest. They like that, That is essentially what nonverbal communication is. My dress code, when you came in and you saw me dressed like that, you had ideas. You thought, oh, look at that guy. I wonder what he does, right? You thought something. If I was dressed like a hip hop artist, you would have thought something else as well, like, oh, he's going to rap for us today or whatever, So that's what nonverbal communication is. And it's very important, nonverbal communication, when you start your career, because you're going to spend a huge portion of your career not being listened to. Because you're an undergrad, right? You're going to spend a lot of time, and I'm sure you're seeing it now. You spend a lot of time in meetings, just sitting, taking notes, and no one is really listening to you. How do you cut through all that clutter and make sure that people notice you? One of the key things is your dress code. How you are dressed when you go to work, it's very important. If you're dressed like you go to a club, no one is going to take you serious. So I really mean it when I say start investing in your formal wear now while your parents are still financing it. Make sure you buy as much formal attire as you can and you look the part, because you got to dress for the part that you want. You want to be permanent, you want to be an assistant or whatever the position is after grad, then you got to dress for that part. So your dress code is very important. Punctuality, being on time. If you're given an assignment, no matter how small the assignment is, if they say they want it at 8 o'clock in the morning, deliver it an hour earlier. Or even a day earlier, so that if there's an error or there's something that's not right, you can quickly fix it and make the deadline. What time you arrive at work, that's also important, right? What time you get to meetings, you're at the lowest position in the company. You better get there 10 minutes before the meeting starts, and make sure you know your game and you know what the meeting is about and what you're going to be doing in there. The quality of your work. So you got to balance time and quality, the quality of your work. Don't bring in shoddy work that's just crappy just to meet the deadline. You might as well have not brought in the work at all, because that's going to pass judgment on you. Next time they have something else in the company, they're not going to come to you. Like, that's that guy that delivered the document that didn't have a comma or that didn't have a cover page or whatever it might be. Those are the key things, right? And you got to be different. Don't follow the flock. So when you come into this graduate schemes, there's a bunch of us. Like, we come in as 20 or 50 or whatever. I remember when I came into mine, I think it was 60 graduates at the time. And we had about, if I'm not mistaken, about 15 or something in the marketing and sales department. There's a lot of us. You want to be different. So don't follow the flock. When everybody says, come collect each other, oh, let's go have tea. Don't do that. Go have tea with the assistant manager. Go have tea with the product manager. That's where you want to go, right? You want to become a product manager, right? Those are the people you should be having tea with, because you're going to learn from them. But what are you going to teach each other? Because you are all learning, and if you're following each other around the office and sitting around the desk to get, what are you teaching each other? There's nothing that you could possibly be teaching each other. So go sit with the senior person, because the senior person is going to impart knowledge to you. They're going to teach you tricks and the industry trades, and they're going to teach you how to behave, and they're going to teach you how to deal with a certain senior manager or how to deal with certain GM in the company, right? So do that. Be different. Go the opposite direction of everyone else, and you're going to be like, no, I want that guy to come work on this, or I want that girl to come work on this. You know what I mean? Because I see her. She's focused. She's here after hours and all of the stuff and whatever it might be. I want them to come work on this. So be different. Promise you, if you do that, you're going to hit the bullseye and you're going to get hired, Generally, graduate programs take like 2 years. You don't have to stay the full 2 years, Sometimes you can get observed within the first 6 months or a year or whatever it might be, depending on how the stars align. Sometimes opportunities just fall out of heaven. Someone leaves the company immediately and you happen to be in a position because you're prepared. Victory loves preparation. Because you're prepared, you've shown that you've grown, you've shown that you have interest in the work, you get taken in just like that, Cool. Career development. This is the part where everybody should wake up. What is career development? Sorry?
The next stage.
The next stage of your career. You're missing one word in the beginning, planning.
I think it's important to take every opportunity you're given to develop your career.
Take every opportunity you're given to develop your career. Anyone else? Cool. So career development, it's a lifelong process of managing learning, working, leisure, and transitions. It's a balancing act, essentially. Just as you have to weigh the option between coming to class or sleeping. Just as you have to weigh the option between going to a party on a Thursday night, knowing you're writing on Friday. That's what career development is about. It's about that balancing act of all of those things. Because the same challenges that you're facing now, you're going to face at work as well. You're going to have instances where you have to be at a party on a Sunday, but you have a meeting at 7 a.m. on the Monday, and you have a presentation that you need to prepare for on that 7 a.m. meeting that you are presenting. So you're going to have to make the decision, Do I go party, or am I fit enough, actually? That's the question. Am I fit enough to go party and come back and present? Still be in a good condition to come back and present. You know yourself as an individual. If you know you're not fit, you better not go party. You better go prepare for that presentation. Your career better come first, because there's going to be many more parties. Many, many more parties. So that's what career development is about. And this is something that we struggle with as graduates when we come into the workplace. We're very short-sighted. As I said, I was earning very little money when I started, and a lot of the people that I was in the company would jump ship, because we're very short-sighted. You always got to look at it from a long-term perspective, and that is why I felt, let me come and focus particularly on this topic, on these topics, choices and career development, right? So, going into it, my clicker could work. There we go. At the core of it, it is you. There's no other you, there's only one you. We are all unique. We can't be the same. What she brings to the table and what he brings to the table will never be the same. So the most important person in career development is you. If you are not driving it, no one is going to drive it. And I know we go into the workplace thinking people are going to help us grow and do this. People don't have time. People are busy managing their own careers. They don't have time to babysit graduates. It's very tough when you get into the workspace. You need to learn to build yourself. If you are not driving yourself, trying to grow your own career, trust me, you are dead in the water. You're dead in the water before you even started. You finished. People don't have time. So you are the most important individual in this whole career development exercise. So you got to be in it for yourself. That's very important. First things first, you got to set your goal. You got to say, what do I want to become? Do I want to become a director? Do I want to become a SVP? Do I want to become a CEO one day within digital? Is it within marketing? Is it within marketing research, distribution sales, whatever it might be? Set your goal. After you set your goal, you have to make your plan. How am I going to go about achieving my goal, right? What am I going to do? Am I going to get a graduate program? Am I going to start my own company? Am I going to start a startup or whatever it might be, right? So you make your plan. Most importantly, you have to act on your plan. We all write plans on paper and all that stuff. If you're not acting on it, it's wasted paper and a bunch of dead trees, right? So you need to act on it. You need to action it, and then review and see how much progress you're making, and if it's still aligned with your aspirations, because aspirations change. Today you might feel like being a director of marketing. Tomorrow you want to be a digital specialist. The other day you might want to be something else, because sometimes you get into things, Like I said, I've been to distribution, It's a great exercise. It's nice to be a tourist and leave, because distribution is boring. For me anyways, it was boring. It was a boring exercise. I wouldn't want to do that for my entire career, So sometimes you get into something, you're like, not what I thought it was, not what I want to do. I want out, So you review every time, say, okay, am I still heading in the right direction? Should I change lanes or whatever it might be? Cool, so let's speak about the goal. Now, once you've set your goal, you need to do your research, right? So that you can have a clear heading of where you're going. And it's a very easy exercise. So you say, I want to be a director of marketing. You go into Google, you say, okay, head of marketing, South Africa, LinkedIn. You're going to get a bunch of pop-ups. You're going to get a link, marketing director, Johannesburg area, South Africa. And then LinkedIn is going to give you insights. It's going to tell you the top companies, the top universities, the top industries, the skills that these individuals have, It's a little bit blurry, but as you can see here, they have digital marketing, they have advertising and marketing and so on and so forth, So by just putting that simple search, into LinkedIn, you can get all these insights about what you need to become a director of marketing and which industries or companies you might end up working for. So that already gives you an idea of where you want to be sending your CV to, or which companies you want to follow on LinkedIn and start monitoring for any job advertisements or whatever it might be, right? When you go further down in the report, it's going to give you directors of marketing. This guy here, Kabelo Raboto, he works for Nissan South Africa, the company that I work for, right? So it's going to give you all of these people that are in various companies. So you click on one of them, it's going to give you their job profile, right? It's going to tell you where their career started, where they went. Most of them, they started in graduate programs. So it was a graduate program. After graduate program, he got absorbed by the company as an assistant. After being an assistant, he went and did this, did that, did that. You get what I'm saying? So you can already see a map of how their career went, the career progression up until directorship. You take that towards your plan, right? You take that towards your plan and you model yourself against that. You say, okay, I want to be a director, and Kabelo or Scott or whoever is the one that I look up to. I want to model myself against that individual, and you start planning your own career based on that. So, okay, I'm going to look for internship. I'm going to look for graduate programs. I'm going to look for opportunities as an assistant manager. I'm going to look for this. I'm going to look for that, right? And then you start planning your career based on that. So it gives you a very clear idea of where you must go, because sometimes we don't know where to start, right? This gives you a very easy step-by-step program that you must follow to get to directorship. Let's put it in a practical exercise. Let's look at myself, for instance. I'm not a product manager at this stage. I've moved out of that area, but because you're marketing students, that's probably where most of you see yourselves, product manager, right? I did 4 years. My diploma took me 4 years because I was a bad kid. I failed the first 6 months of my second semester. Don't tell anyone, right? But eventually I graduated in 2009, right? Because I stuck by it. So after my graduation, as I said, I was fortunate enough to immediately land into marketing management. I became a marketing trainee at Nissan South Africa in May 2010. That's when I started my career, right? I stayed in the program for 2 years and 2 months, right? Now, as I said, you don't have to stay that long. Could be short, it's about you. That's the key ingredient. We are different, right? You are different, You could stay there for 6 months and get absorbed. It's as simple as that, right? So I stayed for 2 years and 2 months in that program. After that, I got into a global, as I said, a lot of my friends dropped out. They left, they went to other companies because I was earning very little money at this stage. I think when I was about to finish in the last year, I was earning about 8,000 rand, Major improvement, yes, but it was still very little, right? In 2012, as I was getting absorbed by the company as an assistant product manager, I got the opportunity to go into a different program, which was a 2-year program, another graduate program. I know, it's insane, right? How do you go into another graduate program? I went into another graduate program, which was a 2-year program, right? Here's the reason why I went into that program. So I'm sitting there, my manager's like, here's your contract for assistant manager, right? I'm like, okay, cool. Do I just sign now and start getting the money? It's like, yeah, you sign now, you start getting the money. I was like, okay, cool, great test. I'll sign that. It's like, but there's this other thing. I was like, what thing? So there's another graduate program. I was like, oh, come on, dude, another graduate program? I was like, yeah, but hear me out. This one is going to see you go into 4 different departments, 2 of them in Nissan South Africa, the other 2 in Switzerland. I was like, what? I was like, so are you interested? I was like, yeah, I'm interested. You want to go home and think? No, I don't want to think about it. I'm taking it. And that's the joy of not having kids. You get to make decisions like that, So I made the call, but my only question was, can I still get the assistant product manager position? It's like, yeah, just sign that. You are observed. You are part of the company now. You go in this global rotation, and then you come back. You continue in this position that you just signed for. Great, I signed for it. Now, here's the trick about it. I stuck it out for 2 years and 2 months. By that time, I think it was only like 10 or 5 of us or something in that company. It was a very small pool. So opportunity found me because I was sitting with there was a very small pool of us, and I was shining out of the bunch that was there. So you see what I'm saying, how opportunities work, how the choices you make work. So don't always make decisions for money. Sometimes make decisions purely because you want to learn. So cool, I started my rotation and he saw me go into dealer network development, you know? And these are the guys that make decisions about where we're going to put new dealerships in South Africa as Nissan, as a company. So I got into that and I learned that. One of my big projects there was doing a network study for the whole of South Africa to see how we can optimize our network. That was fun. So I have that in my CV. I can have a conversation about that in any other interview or any other company that I go try and join. I spent just 6 months, you know, so I was basically being a tourist. You know, I spent just 6 months in there. I learned as much as I could about dealer network development, went into sales operations another 6 months, also learned as much as I could, learn about retail strategy and so on, how we come up with the incentives to get dealers to buy our cars and keep stock and so on and so forth. After that, flew out the country. I went to Switzerland for 12 months. Greatest experience ever, you know? Like sometimes you have to leave your company to go see how other companies operate. But if you're in a global company that offers global opportunity, all you have to do is change regions and the whole dynamic just changes. It's the same company, but the way it operates is just so different. You know, it's amazing. The Swiss are truly punctual. Like trains were hardly ever late. You know, like they really are about, that's why they make watches. Like they're really punctual individuals. Like it's amazing, guys. You know, so did that, went into after sales business planning there. It's great stuff. One of my key projects there was sales, an exercise called sales at loss. So I had to go through all the parts that we sell in Europe, because we're looking at the whole of Europe. Go through all the parts that we sell in Europe and figure out which parts are making losses and why they are making losses, and then rectify that, right? So bringing money back into the company, essentially. You know, sometimes you find stupid things like the reason why the part is not making money is because it's priced wrong. You know, maybe someone missed 1 or 2 commas when they were pricing it, and that's why it's not making money, and then you just adjust that, and suddenly you're making profit off of that part. So that was fun. Then the next part was Chief Marketing Management Graduates. The biggest thing that happened there, I saw myself get involved in the launch of the 2014 Qashqai. So I got to see the Qashqai before my colleagues in South Africa saw it. Like, boo-hoo, guys, I saw the Qashqai already. You know, so that was like great as well. After that, came back to South Africa. As I said, I left I had signed that assistant manager position, came back into that position, but then it was no longer product marketing because there's been shift in the company. It was now product planning, you know? So these guys are the guys that plan bringing a car into the country. So they do all the studies, they map out how we're going to get it into a country, and they have all the fights with the mother company to say, get the right pricing and so on. And then eventually, I became product manager in 2015. In February 2015, I became product manager. So it took me 4 years and 8 months to become a product manager from a marketing trainee in 2010. That is the target that you have to beat. You have to become a product manager in a shorter time. It is possible. As I said, it's about your growth. When you show, you know how some people become GMs at like 29 or whatever? It's about showing a certain level of maturity and owning your job. And that's why the other slide I said, you gotta be different, you know? Because you all look the same, but if you start behaving differently, you're wearing a yellow hat, you sort of stand out more than everyone else because of that yellow hat. He's got his headset on, he sort of stands out more than everyone else because I'm like, why does that oak have his headsets on? Is he not listening to me? You know, so that type of thing, when you're different versus other people, you will stand up. So majority of you get there and you're complaining about things, you're whining about this, you're whining about that. There's going to be that one graduate that's mature than all of you. That's the guy. So that's what you need. You got to be mature, and it's about how fast you learn. So you got to accelerate your learning curve, right? Because it's all about knowledge. We put you in a position because we feel you've taken in all the knowledge that is required for you to be able to run the company at that level. So if when you come into the office and you only learn one thing today, there's another guy that's learning 5 things. So by the time you've learned how to use Google Analytics, this guy knows how to use Analytics, AdWords, and all these other technologies that you use to do your digital specialist work. You know? So the question is, are you going to go home and sleep, or are you going to go home, turn on that machine, and learn how to use other technologies as well? Accelerate your learning curve. Then you can do this. This is nothing. 4 years and 8 months, that took too long. You know, because when you look back at the whole exercise, I shouldn't have came back in the country and stayed in that assistant position for 6 months. I should have fought and said, guys, come on, I just came back from overseas. I can get an offer anywhere else. Give me that position. And I could have been 4 years and 2 months. So it's nothing. You can do it in way shorter time, guys. Sweet. So now you have your goal. You have an idea of what you want to become. You want to become a product manager, right? Great stuff. Now you have to plan it. You have to plan your actions, your steps of how you're going to go about it, right? How do you do that? Say, okay, I'm going to model my career against this Thabang guy. I'm going to become an intern. I'm going to become an assistant. I'm going to become a manager, senior manager, and then boom, I'm going to become a director or whatever it might be, right? And then you put timings to it, right? I'm busy right now with my BTech. I'm going to start applying now. Because you're doing it part-time. What are you doing during the day? I did it full-time as well. I was here Monday to Thursday, driving from work to come here. Come on, guys. There's so much time that you're not utilizing. There's guys that are working here. How are these guys doing it? Sorry? They're not saying. That's what you need. You know, if you go Google, I don't know if you guys have heard of Harvard Business Review. You should check out Harvard Business Review. They do a lot of studies on executives. You know, so Google some studies. Just type in Harvard Business Review, sleeping patterns of CEOs. They don't sleep. They don't sleep. I mean, you look at our former CEO, the chairman of the alliance with Nissan, Carlos Ghosn. He's operating all these companies, so he's operating around the clock. Because South Africa is going to sleep now, but America is waking up. That's the world that we live in today. So that you have ample time, guys. You cannot say, no, I'm doing it full-time, I can't get a job. Full-time. It's in the evening. In the evening is part-time, guys. Don't be fooled by that little statement that says full. No, it's part-time. Because during the day, what are you doing? Guys. Anyway, you have your timing, you manage your timing, and you manage.
You were talking about the graduate program, you were in a pool, and you need to distinguish yourself.
Yeah.
When other people are complaining, you have to take responsibility and push ahead. Yes. So as we understand, and like you rightly said, I mean, when you look into the curriculum of this program, the program is registered as a part-time program because classes are in the evening. All right. So like I told the majority of you, what happens is that those that are working, you can take the program and spread it across 2 years because you need the practicals in order to be able to learn your feet in industry. And the thing about assignment, like he did it within 1 year, we were still working as an assistant product manager at that time. You get it? But he took it up. So you can also do it. You just have to move away, change your mindset. You know, that kind of a switch.
Yeah.
Switch. You understand? Let's talk about it's too passionate, it's complaining, like I was telling you. If you want to do it, you have to sacrifice your sleep.
So it's all balance. Work, leisure, learning. It's about that balance, you know. And you're right, they are not sane, because I lost all my weekends when I was doing mine, you know. There was no weekends. I couldn't go out and have fun. During holidays, it's you have to pick. Do you go see the girlfriend or do you go see mommy dearest? You know, you reach that type of point in that type of situation, right? Cool. So once you have your plan, there's a few things that you can learn to grow yourself. Again, you are the foundation, you know? At the core of it all, it's you. You are unique. There's no one else like you. You are the foundation. You know, you are the key ingredient to your own success. What do you need? You need 70% experience, you know? It's great stuff what you're learning here, you know? But you need to go apply it. So experience is very important. There's a number of ways to get experience. You know, it's not always employment. You know, volunteering yourself. You know, there's companies that come to you guys. I think last year when I was trying to do my honors, which I didn't finish, there was a company that came to us. I think it's GBH, Girls Boy something. It's a charity company. They came to us and we had to develop a strategy for them, a digital strategy of sorts on how to market themselves and how to raise money. You know, they need help with the digital strategy. You know, if you go help them with a digital strategy, you're clocking in hours. You are able to say in an interview, although I was not working, I was volunteering at this organization and I was helping them with their digital strategy. And they go visit the website and they see your work. It's like, this is this guy's work. When they go to Google and they key in the search engine GBH, it pops up, this is this guy's work. you know? So you can clock in and get experience. You don't always have to get permanent employment to get experience. There's a number of ways. You just need to be able to get in an interview and demonstrate that you understand what's happening in the digital space of whatever interview that you're interviewing for. And that's how you start building your 70% of experience. You need 20% exposure, right? You need to be exposed. You need to understand what's happening at the level that you want to go to. Just as I'm here today, you are seeing what it takes to get to product manager level, you know? You need to be exposed, and that's the most difficult part, because we don't have enough people coming back to give back to graduates and so on, right? You need to find yourself a mentor who's in the industry, and you can start building the networks right now, because that's very important. You've got a guy there that's in product management. If you didn't know, now you know. That's your buddy. He comes to class every day. He comes to class once a day. Apparently, you don't come to class, my guy. You know? But anyways, he comes to class. You see him. Now you know what he does. Have a conversation with him. Find out what he does. And see if he can't give you exposure, you know, because that's what you need. Even when you get into these graduate programs, that's what you're going to need. And that's why I'm saying hang with people that are senior than you, because they will expose you. If you're hanging with junior people at the same level as you, you're not going to get exposed to anything. Because the senior people are going to be the ones who say, I like you. Come join me at this meeting. And you get exposed, you know. You know how amazing it is sitting in a meeting with directors and seeing how they argue. That's the most amazing thing ever. Like, these are the people that are deciding how we're going to spend R1 billion. It's the most amazing thing ever. So if you can have senior people that can drag you to this type of meetings, you're going to get your exposure. Education. You got to get your training. You know? When I was in university, I had a lot of idle time. Sometimes when you're doing full-time studies, you get the situation where you have a class in the morning. I don't know why lectures do that. It's a bit evil. You have a class in the morning, you have a whole gap, and you have a class at 4 o'clock. Like, what the hell? Why would you do that to me? You know, and you're not staying at rest, so you can't go and sleep and come back, you know? But I found, after a while, me and my friend back then, my classmate, were like, let's use this time to our advantage. Let's find out what the university has to offer. And we started looking around. There were typing classes, for instance. There were classes on how to use Excel. There were reading classes, for instance, how to read faster and all of that stuff. We started attending those. So we'd come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, attend that class, and afterwards go into those programs, and it's free. It is flipping free, you know? So after that, we get out, we go sit in those programs the whole day, we push the time until 4 o'clock, you know? Guess what? When I got into the company, I had to spend a lot of time using Excel. And guess what? I was great at Excel, you know? Because I spent a lot of time learning on how to use Excel and Word and PowerPoint and all this other stuff. I made this presentation myself, you know, because I started sharpening the skill while I was still in university, you know? So look for such learning opportunities, and there's ample free learning opportunities. You go on the internet, you go into LinkedIn. When you look at the screen that I was just showing earlier of the executive, if you scroll further down, what it does is it shows you courses on how to get those skills that are being offered by LinkedIn, and some of them are free. You know, you go on the internet, you Google, there's so many free courses on the internet nowadays that to be not educated is a bit concerning. You know, because there's just so much free knowledge that's out there. So do that. Don't have idle time. Avoid having idle time. Try and use every minute of your day, right? So that's the second layer after your foundation. After that, you need to be exposed to different roles. As you saw, I've been doing a lot of things. I've been to Dealer Network. Currently I'm back at Dealer Network, you know, and the reason why I'm there is because of my networking and having worked for the manager back then. She's now a GM. I worked with her when she was still a senior manager, you know. So after product marketing, I went into business planning. And then after business planning, I spent a year in business planning. After business planning, I jumped out and went into dealer development. Because ever since I came back from Europe, she's been like, I want you to come work for me. I want you to come work for me, you know. And then eventually last year, I went and worked and joined her team, you know. So impressions are very important as well. So when you work with someone, you know, the quality of your work, the way you carried yourself is going to make an impact. It's going to impact your career in future, you know. So that means even if I was getting kicked out of the company, there's probably certain individuals that will be like, I don't understand why he's getting kicked out. He's good. I want to keep him. You get what I'm saying? So make sure that whoever you work with, you make an impression that's going to last, that they're going to keep trying to get you back. Like, when are you coming to work for me? Constantly, you know? So that's very important. So experience different roles, because at senior management, if you are to become a general manager, the reason why there's that word general in manager is because you are a generalist. You're managing a number of things. So if you are a general manager for sales and marketing, you're managing the digital space, you're managing the marketing, you're managing the advertising, you're managing the sales, you're managing the distribution. So you need that exposure earlier on in your career to expose yourself to different things in the marketing space. So it might require you to make a lot of movements in the same levels and into different functions, you know? So it's not always about getting the promotion. Sometimes it's about just shifting and just saying, okay, I've done that, now I'm gonna go into research. I've done research, now I'm gonna go into communications. I've done communications, now I'm gonna go into advertising. Same level. Eventually, you will move up, right? So different roles. Operational variety, right? You need to get into rotations within one function, you know? So if you're in the sales and marketing space and product marketing, there's guys that do pricing there. You know, there's guys that do distribution, there's guys that do cross-color, and there's guys that do research. You need to rotate within your function sometimes, you know? Have that understanding of how the entire function works. Because when they promote, they'll promote the person that understands the entire function. Because when you go into senior management level, you're gonna have all the different roles reporting to you. So now imagine you're trying to have a conversation with the digital specialist and you have no idea what's happening there. It's gonna be a tough conversation, you know, but if you have an understanding, you're gonna have a very fruitful conversation. So that's very important, right? Broadening, get into projects, get training, read more. You know, I keep emphasizing this point. It's really one of the easiest way you can get experience. For instance, I enjoy Harvard Business Review because they do a lot of case studies on management. You know, I have insights about management that my manager does not have because I'm reading more. Every day I'm like just constantly developing myself. So take that time, read more. You know what I mean? If you want to be a manager, read stuff about management and understand how it works, how you can treat your employees, even if you don't have anyone reporting to you, right? Victory loves preparation, so you're constantly preparing yourself. The day you get someone to report to you, you are equipped. You know how to treat an employee. So get yourself that Harvard Business Review. They give you like 5 free articles, I think a week or something like that. I don't remember what the number is, but get yourself that, right? And then ultimately, once you've covered all of this, and you start exhibiting the quality or the characteristics or the traits that they need for a senior manager, for a product manager, for assistant manager, whatever it might be, you will get promoted. So promotion is an outcome of exhibiting all of this. So that's very important, guys. Any questions? Or any comments or any views? Cool. So now you've got your plan. You need to act. Sorry.
Okay, well, you were talking about that, and you know, sometimes, like when you're in high school, you're like, okay, after matric, I'm gonna do my diploma, and then after, like you'll be like, okay, after my matric, I'm gonna do my diploma for 3 years, and then after I'm like, I'm gonna work, but it's never like that. It's never like that.
No, it's not ever like that. Sometimes life happens.
Yeah, but how do you overcome that?
There's a very nice book that I brought with me. It's actually 2 of them. I quite enjoyed these books. Very simple read. You can read them within 2 days. First one is called Who Moved My Cheese? That's about dealing with change. Remember, I said career development is about managing leisure, work, I forgot the other one, and transitions. Essentially, transitions are things that happen in life. Sometimes you might have a kid. It's a new thing. Now you need to learn how to deal with that change. So give this book a read. It's going to help you with changing your mindset on how to adapt to change fast enough. Sometimes when people's lives changes, some people get stuck looking at the change like, oh my goodness, how am I going to deal with this? And then there's people that react. You need to be that individual because sometimes you get laid off. You get laid off. What do you do when you're laid off? You know? So it happens. And the other one is whatever you think the opposite. This is quite brilliant. Give this one a read as well. This is the guy that says there's no right or wrong decision. There's only a decision that you can make based on the available information. You know? So you're absolutely right. It doesn't always work out the way that you planned it. You know, but you always got to prepare yourself. For instance, simple example with myself. I finished my matric in 2004, right? I wanted to be a graphic designer. I have a passion for arts. I love graphic design. That's what I wanted to do with my life, right? But there were a lot of debates at home. I was good at maths, I was good at accounting. My mom wanted me to be a doctor, the oddest thing ever because I studied commercial subjects. But anyway, she wanted a doctor in the family, I guess. My brother wanted me to be a chartered accountant because I was good at accounting, you know? I didn't want any of those. I just wanted to go into arts. I wanted to be an artsy person and wear funny looking jeans and all that stuff. That's what I wanted to do with my life. I got frustrated and ended up not applying. I ended up taking a gap year, and I spent the entire 2005 walking around with a backpack trying to make rap music. I was trying to build a rap career. You know? Yep. So that's what I ended up doing, right? It wasn't going according to plan at all, right? So I ended up idling. When January came, my mom's was like, when January 2006 now, after a whole year, my mom's was like, you better have applied or else. You know, I was like, it's gonna be tough. So I went to TET in Nelspruit, and I got to TET in Nelspruit, and I got there, I was like, what do you guys still have open? Right? They were like IT and marketing. I was like, these are my grades. What's the easiest thing to go into where I don't have to take a test or whatever, because I needed to go back home and say, I'm going to class tomorrow, right? I was like, what's the easiest thing to get into, right? And they were like, marketing. I was like, sign me up. And that is how I ended up in marketing today, right? It's the absolute opposite of what I've just shared with you guys here. But that's what happens sometimes when you don't act, when you get stuck on the fact that things have happened and it's ruining your plan and you get so caught up. You know, a plan is just a guide. It evolves, it changes. That is why there's that review phase at the end, you know? It's to say, okay, now that I didn't start school in 2005 as I was supposed to, meaning that I've added a year or two extra onto when I graduate and into when I start working, I have to move everything up. I have to review and revise my plan, you know? So you always have to do that. You always have to accept that sometimes life happens, and sometimes life happens for the best. Look at where I am today, you know? It started off very flimsy and shaky, you know, but eventually it all worked out because life happens, guys. And that's the reality of the world that we live in. You know, we can plan all we want, but sometimes things just happen. So learn to react and react very fast, you know? As I said, all you can do is act on the information that's available in front of you at any given point in time, you know? Cool. So act. You gotta always be searching, you know? Always look for opportunities. You know, if you keep your ears open and your eyes always wandering and trying to find new opportunities, opportunities are gonna find you. That's how it generally works, you know? Because sometimes people miss opportunities because they're not looking. So always look for opportunities. You know, this is my plan. I know I want to be an intern. I'm always looking. Are they looking for internships? Guest lectures come here all the time. I don't know how many guest lectures you've seen by now. Actually, funny enough, how I actually got into the internship at Nissan was in, so I started in Nelspruit. I did 2006, 2005, 6 and 7. And then I made a decision to say, if I want to have a career in marketing, I'm not going to have it in Nelspruit because there aren't enough marketing firms or companies or whatever in Nelspruit. All companies are concentrated here. I made the decision to move to Pretoria. I remember I made very funny decisions in my life. I remember packing and asking my brother to put my bed and my fridge and all these things up in his parking and drive me up to Pretoria in 2008. And I hadn't even transferred myself to the site. I wasn't even sure I was going to find space, but luckily I found space, you know. So I transferred and I came to site because I knew in order to build a career, I need to be where marketing is, and marketing is in Gauteng. So I came to site. And then I remember when I was doing, that same year actually, there were companies that were coming to our campus. I forgot what this exercise was called, but basically they were coming to sell themselves and try to recruit graduates. Nissan was one of the companies that were there, right? And I took down details of the guy that was there at the time. I was in 2008, and then I just put it away. Carry on with my studies. 2009, when I finished, I was like, okay, it's time to look for a job. Where do I start? Start sending emails to all the contacts that I have, and I remembered, I also have that guy that I took down his details, and I sent it, you know? And he immediately responded to my email and says, great stuff, we'll call you in for an interview. I'm gonna send your details to my assistant and whatever, and then send the details, and that's how I am here today. Series of decisions. I made a decision to sit down, listen, take down some information, and then I sent an email. A year later, I sent an email, and that's how I got a job. Who would have thought, right? So that's what it's about. Always constantly search for opportunities. Always seek ways to develop yourself, right? Don't sit around and wait. You know, don't have the mindset that when the opportunity finally gets here, then I'm going to develop myself. It doesn't work because the opportunity is going to get here. They're going to say perform, you're going to fail. You're going to get kicked out. Always constantly develop yourself that when the opportunity gets here and they say perform, you amaze, right? That's what you want to be. You want to be in that position. So always seek ways to develop yourself. Network, network, network. You better get that guy on WhatsApp and the other guys that are working, right? If you want to be a product manager, or if you want to be you said a senior controller. We don't even know what a senior controller does, do we? Have a conversation with him and find out what it does. Those are the opportunities that marketers have, you know? So network, network, network. Build your network, because those are the people that are going to help you get into the marketing space. And trust. Trust your plan, right? You're going to finish matric, you're going to start university. It doesn't always work out that way, but trust that it will come together. It always does come together, as long as you are putting in the effort. So don't quit, don't give up. Trust that it's always going to work. You know, there's this thing that they put on social media of late, trust the process or whatever they say. You know, so trust the process. Trust that as long as you are developing yourself, as long as you're working on your plan, it's all going to come together eventually. Great stuff. So you've got your plan, or you've got your goal, you've got your plan, you're actioning it. You need to review. You need to always take the time and say, am I getting there? Am I heading the right direction? So I was here, and I said I want to go there. I've taken 2 steps. It still looks far. You know? Am I doing the right thing? Is there something that I'm not doing right? So always have that review process, you know? And also check yourself. Because as I said, sometimes you get into to something and you realize it's not what I want. Maybe I don't want to be in marketing communications. I thought I enjoyed talking, but it's not it. You know, maybe I don't want to be in advertising. Maybe I don't want to be in the digital space or marketing management or whatever it is, you know. And then you revise your plan. You say, okay, let me change direction now and go study, go focus on something else or go a different direction. So always review how far you are to your goal, you know. That's very important. So that's essentially your plan. You are the core ingredient. You need to have a goal. You need to plan, you need to action, and you need to constantly review and see if you're heading the right direction. The last bit of my exercise. So as Dr. Maduku said there, I'm here in my own personal capacity, you know, and this comes from a belief or a feeling or a drive that I have coming from Nelspruit. And that's why I always feel it's important to mention where I'm from, because we all forget where we're from, you know. If you understand economics and how the economy works, you must understand that you are not Gauteng's money. You are wherever you are from's money. I am here today where I am because my mom worked in the economy of Nelspruit to finance me. But look at me now. I have a house in Pretoria. I'm contributing to the economy of Gauteng and not to the economy of Mpumalanga. That's not right, because that means infrastructure is not going to get developed there. You understand? Nothing is ever going to change, right? So I need to go back and give back, and that's where Reach One, the idea of Reach One came from. So it's just Reach One, Teach One, essentially, you know? That idea came from that, to say, okay, I need to go back and give back to the community, and that's why I do guest lecturing, because I believe in that very strongly, right? And I believe that sometimes for someone's life to go a certain direction, it takes one choice. You make one decision. I made the decision to stay while I was earning 3.5. One choice, and this is where I am today. You know, it takes one choice, and it changes your entire career, and your entire direction, or your entire life. So I strongly believe in this concept of life being a series of choices, you know, that you make on a daily basis. So I'm here to appeal to you guys to join me in this idea of trying to reach out and help people, right? By influencing one choice at a time. If you buy into the idea, if you've seen what I've shared with you and you buy into the idea that truly we can influence one choice and change a lot of things, I want to ask you to go back to wherever you are from and try and influence one choice. Because, for instance, if you remove this one domino, that one is not going to fall off. Imagine how many kids in your neighborhoods right now are clueless about what they're going to do with their lives. You remember how you felt when you were in grade 12? Remember how arrogant you were, maybe, when you were in grade 12? You know, when your brother was telling you, study, you're going to need those results for June to apply for university. And you were like, yeah, whatever. Right? You remember how you were in these queues? At UJ, you were in these queues at TET on your first year trying to apply. Except her, she's shaking her head. Right? You remember those days, right? Those days are still very close to you guys. So imagine now, because sometimes people feel like, I don't have anything to give. You have a lot to give. Imagine now if you are to go back to your neighbor, and you go back for holidays, have conversations with these kids that are in grade 12, with these kids that are in grade 11. and tell them how tough it is where it's going and how easy they can make it by getting the good results in grade 11, getting the good results in that June grade 12 report or whatever it might be. I'm appealing to you guys to go back and share that and share your experience of university with the kids that are coming behind you. And I'm appealing for you to continue doing this exercise even when you start your career. Start coming back to UJ. You're going to become part of the alumni. Start coming back to UJ and start sharing your stories of what you're learning in the industry and how tough it is or whatever it might be and what they can do to improve their chances of being successful in their careers. And if you want to join us, drop us an email, info@richone.co.za, and we'll share some tools, we'll share some ideas on how you can go about doing this exercise. And yeah, that's me. Thank you. Any questions? Any thoughts you want to share? Oh, by the way, that's also important, eh? You must always ask questions. No, on a serious note, you must always ask questions. So always prepare for questions, whatever you are going into, because it's one of the reasons you'll be noticed as well, coming back to that idea of being different, you know? Like I've noticed a few people that answered my questions when I was asking. So if you get into a company and you start working for a company, whenever they say any questions, make sure you have a question ready to ask, because they'll notice you. It's one of the few rare opportunities you'll have to speak at a lower level. It's when they say any questions. Sorry?
Copywriting.
Yeah.
Is I had apparently there's a school where they train professionals to do copywriting. So when you guys hire, do you need that a year course for a person to be in the copywriting department?
Well, we don't necessarily have a copywriting department. Remember, I'm in marketing management, so we have agencies doing it on our behalf, essentially. So what happens is your job will most likely be to approve, right? For instance, when you see the brochures for the cars that we have to approve all that copy. Sometimes we have to write a portion of it, you know, but ultimately it's up to the agency. So you need to be skilled enough to be able to see if the agency is going the wrong direction or the right direction, whatever it might be. But on the internal side, you need to write bulletins. So for instance, if we're sending bulletins to dealers, you need to be able to write a bulletin. You need to have a good enough command of the English language to be able to put in a bulletin without losing the core message that you're trying to get across.
Just like working in finance, you don't necessarily have to study 4 years for accounting in order to be copywriting the same way.
It depends which industry you're going into. From a marketing management perspective, yes, it's like that. But I'd always say go for that course if you can afford it, because it will give you the advantage that you're going to. Yeah, if you can afford it, go for it, because it's going to give you that advantage. Because that's the thing. Sometimes you just need one additional advantage over someone else to get ahead. Yeah.
Questions, please. Ask. Right, any issue. It may not be related to what has been discussed, maybe any general issues that you need some further clarification or knowledge on. He's a very versatile gentleman, and I can assure you that you'll get very good responses to your questions.
All right, she just asked if we have internships. Yeah, we do. You can go to our website, nissan.co.za. There's a section there. If you just search through the links, I don't know, nissan.co.za, and search through some of the links there. There's one on careers. Also go to Nissan, I think it's Nissan/global, you know, because that's another key thing, guys, that I forgot to mention. Stop looking at your careers as in South Africa. I know majority of us love home, but if you're still young, go out there. And that's how fortunate we've become today in the times that you guys are growing up. The world is more open. Your career does not have to start in South Africa. You can start your career in the middle of America somewhere. Do that, and it's very important these days because companies look for that. They look for people that have been that have global experience, you know, and Sub-Sahara as well. You know, everybody keeps saying that Africa is the next frontier, so we need to start pushing products into Sub-Sahara, and South Africa is looked at as the hub, you know, to get into Sub-Sahara. So it's South Africa, and then it's Egypt or Dubai on the at the other end, where you drive down. So driving up and driving down, trying to cover the rest of the sub-Saharan market. So if you have opportunities to go work in Ghana, Nigeria, or wherever, take them. That experience is going to be essential going forward. And these places are not as bad as we see on the news and so on. There's areas that are very safe to work in and so on. So if you have an opportunity, because right now I'm in sub-Saharan network development. That's where I've just started now. It's just that we're still we're in a transition period at work. So I'm going to start moving into this market and going to the Ghanas and so on to try and develop our Nissan network. So get that experience. Stop looking at it from, I need to start my job in Jozi. Look for opportunities outside of South Africa as well, and go to Europe and work for a while there. You know, sometimes it could be even what you call it, exchange programs or whatever it might be. You know, take those, you know, and just go for it. You might never even come back. Yes, ma'am. Nissan.co.za. The other one is Nissan-global.com.
All right, do we have a nice conversation? Can we give him another round of applause, please?
Thank you.
Sir, thank you. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, on behalf of the Department of Marketing Management of the University of Johannesburg, and on behalf of my lovely students that are seated here, we wish to convey our heartfelt appreciation and thanks to you for the time and effort that you have taken to visit our university, of course your alma mater, to share this great insight with our students. I'm sure you have enjoyed it so well, and I'm sure you have learned a lot. I have learned a lot about what he has had to share with you myself. So it's impressive having you around here, and we hope that we'll see more of you here. And he's committed, like he said, I mean, he's so much into youth development, he's so much about people development, and it is should be your responsibility as well, that in the future, he has shown the light, he has shown you the track, you need to take after him and try to show some responsibility and the spirit of giving back to your community, to your university, and to wherever you find yourself. I mean, when we all commit to give back, the world will be a better and a nicer place to live in. So on that note, I say thank you. This is just a token from the department and from our students to say thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much, sir. I've always wondered about this when I was sitting there, like, what's in here? I'm going to find out tonight. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, guys.